Good morning from Oklahoma. I'm Dave Deken with a look at what's happening in agriculture and rural life across our great state in this episode of Red Dirt and Round Bales. Some men build a mansion to prove they have arrived. E.W. Marland built one just in time to watch his fortune leave through the front gate. You can still see the mansion in Ponca City, Oklahoma. It's a beautiful limestone palace rising above the prairie, with carved ceilings, grand stairways, and enough rooms to make a fellow wonder how anybody ever found his hat. But the real story isn't the house. It's a man who built it, lost nearly everything, and then tried to rebuild an entire state. Ernest Whitworth Marland was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1874. He became a lawyer before most young men ever figured out what they wanted to do with their lives. But law was never quite enough for him. Western Pennsylvania was oil country, and Marland became fascinated by the idea that a man could study the land, trust his judgment, and pull a fortune out of the ground. He did just that. And then, during the panic of 1907, he lost it. Instead of settling into defeat, Marland borrowed money and headed west. In 1908, he came to the country around Ponca City and the famous 101 Ranch. He looked across that rolling land and believed there was oil underneath it. For a while, the earth disagreed. He drilled dry holes and burned through money. But in June of 1911, his operation struck oil on the Ponca allotment of a man remembered as Willie Cries for War. Can you imagine something like that? One hole in the northern Oklahoma prairie changed Marland's life and helped change Ponca City with it. The operation grew into Marland Oil Company. They didn't just drill wells. They built pipelines, storage tanks, and a refinery. Marland Oil Company owned railroad tank cars and sold gasoline through hundreds of filling stations marked by a red triangle. Marland understood that the real money wasn't only in finding oil. It was in controlling the journey from the well to the customer. But he also believed that a company ought to take care of its people too. Marland Oil offered medical and dental care, helped workers finance homes, and rewarded employees for useful ideas and new discoveries. He built parks, supported a hospital, and gave money to civic projects. He commissioned the Pioneer Woman statue that still stands in Ponca City today. He wanted industry to be useful and beautiful. Of course, Marland also lived like a man who believed the good times might never end. There were polo matches, fox hunts, private rail cars, and elaborate parties. And then came the mansion. Construction began in 1925. An architect by the name of John Duncan Forsyth designed a sprawling Italian Renaissance-style estate that became known as the Palace on the Prairie. It reportedly cost about $5.5 million to build and furnish. But before it was finished, Marland's first wife, Virginia, died. In 1928, Marland married Lyde Roberts, Virginia's niece. E.W. and Virginia had previously adopted Lyde, and the adoption was annulled before the marriage. That chapter remains difficult and controversial. Marland's life was filled with generosity and vision, but it was also complicated. Human beings usually are. That same year, New York bankers gained control of Marland Oil. Marland resigned, and the company was folded into Continental Oil, the business Americans later knew as Conoco. The man who lost one fortune in Pennsylvania now lost another in Oklahoma. Soon, he and Lyde could not afford the utilities in their own mansion. They moved into a smaller building on the estate grounds, but Marland, well, he wasn't finished. He turned to politics, blaming powerful Eastern bankers for taking control of businesses built by working people. He served in Congress, and in 1934, he was elected governor of Oklahoma. And by then, Oklahoma was hurting. The Great Depression had taken jobs. Drought was punishing farms, and dust was moving across the plains. But Marland brought federal New Deal programs into the state of Oklahoma. During his administration, roughly 1,300 Works Progress Administration programs employed about 90,000 Oklahomans. His administration helped create the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and he led oil-producing states in forming an interstate compact meant to reduce waste and stabilize the petroleum industry. He couldn't restore every job or save every farm, but he understood something about starting over. He had done it himself. Marland returned to Ponca City after leaving office. In 1941, he sold the mansion to the Carmelite Fathers for a small fraction of what it had cost. And just 6 months later, E.W. Marland died in a cottage on the estate grounds. E.W.'s life looks like a story about oil, money, and a magnificent house. But underneath all of that is a story about belief, the dangerous kind, the generous kind, and a kind that keeps a person moving after nearly everything is gone. He built an empire. He lost it. Then he used what power he had left to help other people hold on. And maybe that's why the mansion still matters. It isn't merely about a monument to wealth. It is a reminder that fortunes rise and fall. But what a person builds for others may last a little longer. To learn more about E.W. Marland, visit reddirtandroundbales.com. I'm Dave Deken, and we'll talk with you next week when we take another look at rural life and agriculture in Oklahoma on Red Dirt and Round Bales.